I was talking to my sister this weekend, and we were talking about, teaching my students. And she was just asking me questions about it. And one of the things that really kind of stand out for me is that we don't realize how much time, how long it takes us, the commitment, the resources that it takes to be successful. I think that we think that it's a magic bullet when we take a class or go to conference, that we're automatically going to be changed, that we're gonna learn the thing that we need to learn, that we're not going to have any skin in the game. And I think that the time that it takes, the commitment that it takes to learn something new, we don't realize how much time it takes. And I think that we underestimate how much time it takes to be successful at anything. It takes time, it takes money, it takes commitment, it takes sacrifice. And I think oftentimes we don't realize how much time it's going to take, and we're not willing to make the sacrifices. We want to go to this class, if it's 12 weeks of coaching, or whatever it is, this conference, 3 or 4 day conference, and we're expecting to be different. We're expecting our lives to be better. We're expecting, like by osmosis, that we're going to do something different, that we're going to expect that we're going to be changed, that we're automatically going to do what we need to do, that just magically things are going to start to happen. And it just doesn't happen that way. It often takes reviewing the material that you've learned. It takes a commitment to every single day, learning and taking action, just kind of seeing what's working, what's not working. And so we get into something, we think that it's going to be easy to learn. Say we're learning a new skill. We started and we think that it's going to be easy, but what we don't realize is that sometimes for a new skill, we spend 4 or 5 days, 4 or 5 hours every single day learning that skill, so that we can have some proficiency, a year later or however long it takes. But oftentimes we think that we're going to be good after we sit through a class or sit through a conference, and it's just not going to happen. There is a level of commitment and time that you have to spend studying something to really get good at it, to really know it. It just doesn't happen. You go to a conference or you go to a class and you all excited about your life changing, but you don't realize that the real work happens when you get home, and that oftentimes it's the repetition that we need. That's why we sell coaching programs after a class. We are a challenge. We sell books because we know that people need the continued education. We know that it's the repetition that in most cases somebody's not going to just take it and run with it. Most people are going to need accountability. They're going to need coaching. They're going to need help after the fact. And most people just won't be able to do it on their own just by one, instance with you, or one little program with you. They're gonna need continuous support. And so we don't realize how long it takes. We don't realize how much it takes, how much commitment we have to keep going after we fail or it doesn't work the first time. We don't realize that we have to keep going, that we have to have these deep work sessions where we're spending 4 hours on something. And so I can remember years ago when I started coding as a medical coder, I would spend time every single day. I was trying to learn a new skill within coding. It was inpatient coding, and every single day for a whole year I studied. And people were telling me that there's no way you can do this. You don't have any experience. There's things that you just never could learn teaching yourself. And so I was committed. I had made a decision that I was going to make 6 figures. I was going to have to do it in this year time. And I had 25 books that I had to study during that time. I had to teach myself a new skill, and I was going to conferences, I was going to classes, I was learning, but I was still having to come home every single day and work on cases, learning how to code those cases, learning about new conditions, new diseases too. It wasn't just a one-time thing. I couldn't just go to a class or go to a conference, and I did a lot during that year. I was still having to come home and work out the kinks. I was still having to come home every day and learn. I was still there was so much to learn that there was no way I could do it in one session. There's no way I could remember it. And so I would tell my students when I taught coding that oftentimes we have to see something 7 times before we learn it, before it becomes a part of us, before we can talk to somebody else about it, before we understand it, before we can really do anything with it. We don't just get it the first time. We don't get it the second time. It's just a constant. It's anything that you're learning. There is some repetition that has to happen. You have to constantly go back to it. If it's something that you want to be good at, you want to be a thought leader in something, there is this repetition, this constant, you got to go back and see, how does it apply to what you've already learned? How does it apply to what you're doing right now? How does it apply to your past? What stories can you look at in your life that you can see, okay, I did this. Okay, I could take this and build on this thing that I learned. But oftentimes we don't realize that we got to think about what we've learned. We got to read about continual learning. We sometimes we got to do different things. We got to make note cards. We got to create quizzes for ourselves. We got to do different things. We got to talk about it. We got to teach it, even if it's just teaching to ourselves over Zoom. It's the preparation and getting ready to sing it over and over again that we're able to get good at a thing. And so we often we underestimate how much it takes to be successful. We underestimate how much it takes to learn something new. It's not easy. It's just not easy. It is work. It is real work every single day, especially if you're learning about AI, which we all should be, right? If you're learning about programming or something new, you got to spend time with it every single day, or have, even if it's a little bit of time, but every single day you got to have some time that you're learning and growing about whatever that is.